Hello everyone! Welcome back to Drawn by Annie channel. This is me, Annie, and I will be drawing for you today. Grab your tea, coffee and snacks and let's dive into today's video. How you've been these days? How's your week? How's your weekend? Do you have any plans for the summer? Because it's just around the corner. I hope you have finished your exams or are about to do so. And I wish you luck for those who still have some exams ahead of you. Just keep in mind that after the hard work, there will be a reward, a nice time, nice weather, and lots of fun this summer. And as for me, I've been working on various projects aside of the videos for you guys here, and I hope I can present some of the work regarding Lyria World and regarding my other random projects soon, so I can share some excitement with that. But for now, I'm going to work on something that I've started in the previous video for you, and that is coloring and rendering the sketch of Mao Mao. So in my previous videos, I invited you to join me on a sketching session in a cozy cafe, and it was lots of fun for me because I rarely do record anywhere outside of my studio, so go watch that one if you haven't already. In that video, I made 2 sketches and I was talking about how I want to explore some differences of art styles when it comes to mimicking somebody else's art style or an anime fan art style, the closest one to the original, and also explore how different my own style is. And just for me and for the experimental experience, I decided to draw 2 sketches right side by side so I could glance at them all together and see what is the biggest differences between the styles. And today I'm going to color the first part, the one that mimics the original anime art style. So for this experiment, I chose a simple shot where Mao Mao is just glancing at the viewer, so I could actually focus on facial features and proportions between the head and the shoulders without having to deep dive into all the details that her design has to offer, even though I would love to draw her full body artwork. For this experiment, I didn't really need to do that. Maybe later on I will draw fan art, maybe in one of the pretty outfits, because the Apothecary Diaries offers a lot of nice designs for the outfits, and this Chinese aesthetic and fashion is very, very pretty because I fell in love with some of the character designs, especially Emperor's concubines. That's a very hard word for me to pronounce. Emperor's concubines, the ones that are wearing nice and fashionable clothing, and especially the pink and the blue one. Gyokuyo and Lihua are my favorite ones, so maybe eventually I will draw like a pretty artwork for both of them, but I cannot promise you that because I believe it will be a complicated artwork that will take me a while to finish, and my friend who is editing these videos, she doesn't like when I do that. So you gotta ask her nicely in the comments if you want me to draw the fan arts for Lady Gyokyo and Lady Lihua, if you want to see the artwork process, because she will have to be the one editing the long process videos. So go ahead and fill out these comment sections with asking my friend Yara to let me draw that on the video. So in the last part, I mentioned how I noticed the animation art style being so simple, looking very clean. And I think this is an intentional tool for the mangaka and for the animators who are making the anime, for it to be produced as quick as possible, because they have to work on a very tight schedule and produce a whole new episode from scratch with just a week's time, and that takes like a lot of effort. Like for a whole team of animators and mangakas, they really have to work like literally a whole day. I think it's like 10+ hours or something just to finish the episode. So they end up using the simplest tools they can for the animation to look smooth and clean and, you know, not overly complicated or overly detailed for us to be able to enjoy the show. So with this artwork, work, I'm also trying to force myself not to use too many details, to be honest, because when I'm doing my art, I feel that I'm using way more detailing and everything because I can take my time enjoying the process. I really like adding more details and see how it will reflect on the whole picture. But for the anime, you cannot really do that because, well, firstly because of the tight schedules, and I believe animators and mangakas are mostly doing it for a living, and they have been in a big competition on the Japanese and like general Asian market for the shows and mangas, and I don't know if they're actually enjoying the work anymore because it's more of a conveyor production for the animes and everything, and I kind of feel sorry for them because me as someone who is not working for a studio or not making a living from drawing, I mean, I would love to earn some money from drawing, but if it turns into work, it kind of loses the spark at some point. At least I think it would lose a spark for me if I went for working in studio for mass production for animes or like mangas or whatever. Because working on a personal project or drawing as a hobby is so much different from if you have to work 9 to 5 or like even longer every day and you have to be creative, which is not really possible. If you have to follow the deadlines like all the time, you cannot really draw what you want. You are drawing whatever the client tells you to, or in this case, employer or a studio or a game dev studio, whatever, I remember I watched some video about the mangaka's workday from one of the YouTube channels. I cannot remember the channel name, but they were exploring the everyday routine of a mangaka studio worker, and it was not fun. Like, it was so much different from what I imagined it to be. Like, literally, the creativity is just non-existent there. You're just doing mechanical work. You're not doing anything creative, at least for most part. Like, if you're not the main director of manga or an anime or anything like that, you just kind of follow the exact instructions and you have to mimic the same style. You cannot draw in your style, so you have to follow the style requirements as well. So yeah, I feel like I wouldn't want to work in a manga studio, to be honest. I would very much rather to make my own comic with my own pace and about whatever that I want it to be, not to try and fit into the market. But maybe I'm telling this because I'm not the professional, I'm like a self-taught, and I always treated drawing like a hobby. So in this fan art that is mimicking the original as much as possible, I didn't have much fun or creativity. Literally working on this piece just taught me how to use the simplest tools as possible. It's also an experience, which I cannot not appreciate. I really appreciate any experience, to be honest, but I know for sure what I don't want my art to look like, because for me art is a self-expression tool, and if I cannot express myself with it, like, what's the point of drawing anyway? So yeah, this may be an unpopular opinion, but it is what it is. That's what I think about it. So tell me in the comments if you agree with me or if you have a different opinion on this. I would love to have a discussion about this topic. So for the color palette and for the rest of the tools, I decided to go with prepared some in advance. Like, I looked through my marker collection and I tried to find the most matching colors to the original anime shot. I'm going to use the same color palette for the other part where I'm using my art style for the same shot for the most part. And for the line art, I'm just going with my fine liners, because they are the thinnest tool that I have there. And I know that a lot of mangakas are using the same type of fine liners in their artwork and when they're doing manga, if they're doing it traditionally, not digitally. So I kind of like how the thin markers are looking very clean and very, very tiny, and it really represents the original animation style. Even though it doesn't present to me and my eye much of an interest, it really gives this neat and tidy look for the artwork. So if you're aiming for this type of art, I think that's the perfect tool to use. And I'm not underestimating the simplicity in styles, because it takes a big skill from an artist to capture the emotion and the character in very thin and very little details and lines. And having such a skill in your artistic skill set is definitely going to be an advantage in whatever place you're going to work if you're aiming to work as an artist anywhere, because this can greatly boost your productivity in terms of like producing the designs and creating ideas and sketches, because the quicker you make them, the more shots you're shooting, let's say, and the more statistically you can come up with good or better ideas, because you're just doing a lot of drawings. So you will end up with a lot of drawings and ideas and sketches that you can choose from, and then like later on work on the best that you think are the most successful and the most likable to your eye. In general, the more you draw, the better you become. So yeah, sometimes less is really more, because I don't know if you heard about that, but most of the times there is like two types of work: 80% effort, 20% result, or the vice versa, 20% work and 80% result. It's really hard for me to apply this principle to my own artwork or my own work and life in general, because I'm just a big chaotic ball of whatever. And I am really struggling to organize my own life, and even everyday stuff can be challenging for me to organize. But I know that some people find a lot of success in applying this principle to their work. So maybe one day I will learn this skill as well. This artwork actually can represent this principle, because really, if you're not putting as much effort into details as most animation and mangakas are not doing actually in the process of making manga or art, because they have to tell a story. So you have to be very intentional with the details of the character that you want to put into their design, because you have to replicate all of these details in every shot that the character appears. So actually, I really appreciate how intentional Mao Mao's design here is, because there is only few details and they really stand out in the big shapes of, for example, her hair and her silhouette, and like the simplicity of her kimono. It gives her like a smooth silhouette, and a few little details that are popping out are the accessories on her hair and also the depth of her eyes, and little freckles are also a very big part of her face. I don't know if I know any other characters that actually has freckles, even though they're spoiler alert. Go check out the Apothecary Diaries if you haven't yet, because the more I talk about it, the harder it is to not spoil the show. So go check it out. It's very nice. Mao Mao is very nice and smart and a fun character to look at. So yeah, what I learned while working on this artwork piece was the simplicity of the line work, also the simplicity in design detailing, as well as simple color palette. So I really used the same colors to make some shading on her kimono and where it's really necessary, a little bit on her hair and her face. And I also didn't really fill out the background with colors, with much different colors. I only used the simplest colors that I could find in my collection, which would pretty much match whatever are the colors of the background in the original shot. And I didn't really give any texture or details to the background whatsoever as well. So yeah, with this artwork, I learned how to make 20% of work to an 80% of result. And there was an attempt. I don't know if I've been successful. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I thank you very much for watching and sticking up with me and listening to my little chatter here. Hope you enjoyed your time, because I really did enjoy drawing with you and for you. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss a little bit more deeper about mangaka and animator's job versus artists that are freelance artist jobs. And if you're a hobby artist, for example, what do you think about animator and mangaka work compared to your personal artworking in your own studio and your own projects? I'm really curious what you have to say about that. And remember, don't forget to wash your cup. Stay tuned for the last part. Bye bye!